Hi, this is DJ Tina, host of HMTV Canada Easing. On the phone with me today is LA's based Sunset Strip hair metal band PairADice. Hi Billy, I hear Rocklahoma was a huge success for PairADice. Can you tell our audience about this event?
Oh yeah, it was a great show. Rocklahoma was quite the event. Even with all the crazy weather and the tornado that blew through, and just to see so many people out there, just raising their fists and having a great time with all the '80s metal that came out there and all the great bands from back in the '80s. It was awesome, man. They were putting up with the mud, and I mean, there was one day where we had great weather. The next day it'd be tornadoing and raining on everybody, but it was just awesome. It was great to see so many bands reunite for the first time in so many years as well. It was great. It was awesome.
What other bands did you share the stage with at Rocklahoma?
Oh, it was a lot of so many great bands were there. We had Rat played opened the show the first night, and then we played on Thursday night, and you also had Bret Michaels playing that night, and got to catch some of LA Guns. That was a pretty good show, and as well as Dawkins. That was Thursday's lineup was a lot of fun. It was a good show. So, I really enjoyed Queensryche. That was really good, and Kix was a fantastic show. Love those guys. They put on a fantastic show as well. So many bands. God, I can't even remember all their names. It's the list goes on and on. So many of my favorites.
So Rocklahoma was like a Woodstock event.
Absolutely, it
Okay.
was a lot like that. You had the people in the mud, and you had so many. It started off at around 1:00 in the afternoon, and bands played until 11:00, and then there was actually like a big campsite area where all these people brought out their trailers and tents and camped out, and they had a little stage set up down there too, where bands would play until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It was quite the event.
I hear PairADice still has their magical touch of tearing up the stage, and that they really put on a kick-ass show at Rocklahoma.
Well, thanks for saying that. We appreciate that. We always had a reputation of putting on a real energetic live show back in our younger days on Sunset Strip and in the '80s. And it's funny, we were all a little skeptical about whether or not we could still pull it off, being that it's been, 18 years since we've been on the same stage together. And for some reason, I mean, it's kind of like riding a bike, right? You get 5 guys that just click, and we weren't really quite sure how we were going to pull it off and how it was going to come across, but once we hit the stage, it was definitely magical. It was like we hadn't missed a beat in 18 years. It was pretty cool looking across the stage and seeing my buddies from it's kind of like a college reunion in a lot of ways. So. But it was really awesome to see and feel the energy coming from the crowd and seeing them sing along to all the songs, and it was definitely magical. And so many people have said that we still got some kind of certain spark or energy that we had back then. So that's really cool to hear.
I think the audience too plays a huge part in that. Like, you're picking up the energy from the audience, and then bang, the inspiration's there. So you never lose it. Once you've been playing all those years, I don't think you ever lose it.
Absolutely. There's a lot of work that goes into it, preparing to, go on stage and do shows and record a record, and, that's work. But once you hit the stage, that's so much fun, that's really what it's all about is playing for the fans and the people in the audience, and to see them sing along, and it's a big part of their lives to come out and see bands from, back in the '80s, and just to hear the music that people really enjoy hearing, right? Mm-hmm. And it's so gratifying to see people out there that still appreciate that kind of music and music from that time. So that's really why we do it. It's not like we're making millions of dollars out there doing this. We're just doing it because we love the music, and, we appreciate all the fans that still want to hear us play.
Was the band successful in selling CDs and PairADice merchandise at this event?
Oh, it was huge. We couldn't believe it. We did a meet and greet afterwards, and we thought it was just going to be a quick little meet and greet, and we were actually there for about 45 minutes to an hour, and the line was out the tent, and
wow.
we sold a whole bunch of CDs and signed all kinds of 8x10s, and we're signing T-shirts, and we ended up hanging out with all kinds of the people that were in the meet and greet even afterwards, and a couple of days into the event, because we didn't just leave that night. We kind of hung out for a couple more days and kind of soaked it all in, and saw some of the other bands and hung out with some of the fans. It was really cool.
With Paul Lancia on lead vocals, Dave Marshall on guitars and vocals, yourself, Billy DeVette, on guitar and vocals, Dash Bash on drums, and Nick Masella on bass. When the original 5 members came back together for the first time to play, did they notice any changes in the way they played, or was the experience of playing live better?
Yeah, definitely. We noticed we kind of matured as a band over the years. When you're young, you're filled with energy, and we definitely have matured over the years. We're a little more seasoned and a little more mature. Dave's been touring, ever since the band broke up. Dave was, played on the first Vince Neil records with Steve Stevens, and he went out on tour with Van Halen, as well as he also played guitar with Slaughter and many other bands as well. So he's a very professional, seasoned pro, and Daz has still been playing. So many of the guys are still actively involved in the music. So it wasn't like guys had to kind of relearn everything. Everybody was pretty up on their chops, and actually a lot better musically than they were, 18 years ago.
That's good to know.
That kind of helped us out as well.
Yeah, for sure. And they've gained a lot of experience, a lot of the players in the band.
Yeah, absolutely.
Working with
Paul was
different musicians.
in Vegas playing and recorded an album or two with a band called Lazy Jane, and Daz has been doing all kinds of studio work in Florida, as well as playing in several rock bands out there in the club circuit. So it made a big difference. I think it helped a lot, because we only had a limited time to put it all together and rehearse. So being that guys were still pretty up on their chops made a big difference.
And it helps when they got their musical roots firmly planted in the ground.
Absolutely,
the experience
absolutely.
that they've gained throughout the years. I find it hard to believe why PairADice was never signed to a multi-record contract back in the day, because your music is awesome. When did you land the deal with Retrospect Records?
Well, that was late last year. They contacted us. We just happened to kind of throw up a MySpace page just because we had so many people saying, hey, you got to just put a space up with some pictures and photos and stuff, and we did that, and it wasn't more than 2 months after we put the site up that we were contacted by several other record labels as well as Retrospect, and we just thought, he came to us and said, this is what he's got going on, and we just thought it was a great opportunity to at least put out the songs that we had recorded back then, to kind of get them out there for the people who never got to own a CD. So it's been a great working relationship with them. They're really, on the ball as far as, making more things happen in the future. So, it looks like we're going to be doing more festivals next year as well. So hopefully we can come out to Canada and do something out there as well.
That would be awesome. And it's great that finally a record company did take an interest and got that inspiration back and got things going for the band.
Yeah, it's awesome, and there's several labels out there doing the same type of thing, but these guys are really, he's in a band as well, and he comes from the same kind of background and roots, so we really feel comfortable working with them, and it's nice to see them kind of bringing back so many bands that didn't really quite get the exposure that perhaps they deserved.
And it's really good working with a label that's really passionate for the band. It makes a huge difference.
It really does. It's been a great working relationship, and we look forward to releasing a DVD right now. They're working on putting out a DVD from the Rocklahoma shows with the assorted lineups of bands that were on the stage. So we look forward to hopefully having that come out later in the year, hopefully in time for Christmas, but we'll see.
Okay. What inspired PairADice to come back into the music scene almost after 20 years?
I think we were just, it was really timing, if this would have come, 5 years earlier or so, it probably wouldn't have happened. I think it was just the right time in our lives as far as our home life and everything. So it was a good opportunity for us to get out there and do it. Dave wasn't he was playing with a band called Scrap Metal, and he's not in that band anymore, so he was available to go on and tour with us, and so that was good. And Paul Lancia was available. It was just the timing was perfect, so that really had a lot to do with it.
After listening to great tracks like Nasty Girls and Stay the Night, I can kind of visualize what these videos would be like. Your latest track, I Will Be There For You, has all the bells and whistles of a classical metal band's 80s touch. Will you be making any music videos from these tracks in the future?
We're actually working on recording a new record right now, and hopefully we can put together a video for the single of which will be, I think, Morgantown. So we'll keep you posted on that. So, and I would love to do a video for Nasty Girls. I could totally see that as a video for sure. So
yeah, for sure, because the song creates imagery.
Absolutely, it really does. You can almost kind of see the visuals, huh?
You can see a lot of the visuals in a lot of your song tracks.
Well, thank you for that. We try to put the lyrics of a kind of a story behind it, so you can kind of visualize, what's happening in the song, and so yeah, hopefully we'd love to do. Right now, they're working on putting together kind of a video that's pretty much not really story-based, but more clips of assorted live shows and of a montage of different live shows throughout the years. So, and that should be coming out sometime later in this year or the beginning of next year. So we'll keep you posted on that as well.
That's awesome. I was going to say congratulations on your recent debut album, PairADice. And can you tell us about this album, anything from highlights, inspirations, challenges to recording your latest EP?
Well, it's so much different recording now than you did back in the 80s. The songs that were on the EP now are all songs that we recorded from 1988 to 1989. And back then, you did your best to scrape up as much money as you possibly could, and you went in and recorded in a 24-track studio at midnight till 6 o'clock in the morning, and because that was pretty much the cheapest time you could get in the studio, and you did it as quickly as possible in very little budget, and now we're recording now. It's we kind of all live in different states, so we all have our own little home studios at home, and we send wave files back and forth through a server, and we keep adding tracks on top of that. So now it's not as crunch. You're not thrown into a studio and have to create the magic in 4 hours or less. It's kind of, you've got weeks and weeks at home to work on it. So a lot more time and effort can really be put into the tracks, which makes, I think, in the end result makes a big difference. You're not so rushed.
Right. Do you find digital better?
I don't know. I'm still kind of favor analog. I like the vibe of it. I like some of the warmth that you get from that. But digital definitely has all kinds of advantages. There's just so much more you can do with digital recording these days that makes life a lot easier in a lot of ways, but can really complicate things in so many other ways. So it's got its ups and downs by far, but
I think the downs come with compression.
It's been a lot of fun. So we're really having a good time recording this new record. We got the drum tracks all done, and now we're just laying down the rhythm guitars, and we'll start working on vocals in the next month or so.
I think the most downfall of digital is when you compress them into MP3s, because they don't sound the same as what the audio.
No, you lose a lot. It definitely compresses a lot of the track, and you definitely lose some of that in the transition. So, that is unfortunate, but, this is a new digital world that we live in, and we just got to get used to it, I suppose. So,
I'm curious, who writes your songs, and why did PairADice lock these awesome songs in a vault?
Well, it was kind of a bitter end at the end there when when the 90s kind of arrived. Things were kind of slowly moving towards the whole grunge era, and there wasn't really a need for the 80s hair band anymore. Nobody wanted to hear it, so they ended up, locked in a vault for a while, and then they slowly ended up in a box in a basement. So, we all contribute to writing the songs now. Paul and I wrote the majority of the songs when the band originally got together, and as the band kind of matured, we started all writing, and Dave contributed quite a few. He'd come in with a guitar riff at rehearsal, and I'd write a part after that. Paul would start writing some lyrics, and we kind of all worked together as a team. But right now, currently, we're all kind of trying to throw out some ideas. I wrote about 3 or 4 new songs for the new record, and Paul's coming up with some lyrics as well. So we're all kind of contributing with the new project now. So it's kind of a new direction that we're kind of going in. It's still got that 80s kind of feel, but it's a little more mature and with a little bit more of today's kind of harder edge as well.
That's cool. Now, is it good time, sex, parties, and rock and roll that you express in your lyrics, or are they based on what the band's experienced in the music scene throughout the years?
Yeah, it definitely comes from the experiences that we had back then. I'd say, some of the songs were kind of, made up, but a lot of them were kind of just songs that kind of come from the experiences that we had on the Sunset Strip, or just living the lifestyle that we did. It was definitely a sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle back then for us. It was definitely a party every night, and the songs reflected that in the lyrics that we wrote.
Now, coming back into the music scene today, is it still like that, or is that just the good times back in the day?
No, not at all, Tina. It's completely different for us now. Paul and Nick are still both kind of single, and they still, live kind of a rock and roll lifestyle. But for the most part, the rest of us are, married and got kids and kind of doing the family thing. It's not quite rock out with your cock out kind of lifestyle anymore. So, every once in a while we'll cut loose and let it rock, like we did back then. But when you're all kind of pushing, middle age like we are now, you don't quite party as hard as you did when you were, 22 years old.
Right. So what's the attitude of your kids when they see you come back into the music scene? What's their reaction?
My kids love it. They tell all their kids in school. I got a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter, and I got them in the studio recording now, and hopefully bringing them along the ranks of the music business, and got them singing, and of course nowadays with Hannah Montana and all the stuff on Disney with Camp Rock and stuff. It's all about kids playing music and rocking out. So they really dig it, and they like telling all their friends that their dad was a rock star and, plays guitar, so they bring all their friends over and record in the studio, and they all think it's great.
That's awesome when they get involved, eh?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. So, yeah, they really dig it.
Yeah, when you find out that the family support is there, it's a great inspiration.
Yeah, it sure is. And now I get them involved in recording and singing background vocals on some of the songs, and they really get a kick out of that.
Yeah, they would. Now, who helps mix, record, and master all PairADice's music?
Dave Marshall. Dave Marshall's got, really the ear for it. So he's kind of our producer and our engineer when we do the recording. He pretty much did that back in the early days in the 80s, and is really taking the helm with the new record now. He's really our chief engineer and producer.
The one thing holds true. For the last 20 years, 80s hair metal bands and classic rock glam has always been going strong as one of the most influential popular music genres of all time. Did PairADice share the stage back in the day with any huge bands?
Oh yeah, we did countless shows with Warrant. We all, we went to Japan and toured with a band named Jet Boy, who also was on the Rocklahoma show, and we played with many bands, House of Lords, Hurricane, Kicks, Great White, God, the list goes on and on. I think Dave and I both were asked to join, or at least to audition for Poison before CC, and we shared the stage with many other great '80s bands back then. It was a wild time. It was a lot of fun.
Do you still touch base with these bands today and keep in contact with them?
Absolutely. Actually, when we were when we were rehearsing to get ready for Rocklahoma and do this whole reuniting thing, we were actually at the studio with we were at the same rehearsal studio as Warrant, and they were getting ready to go out on tour with Janie, and so they were kind of reuniting as well. So we were all found ourselves sitting around a coffee table, kind of hanging out, and talking about the old days on the Sunset Strip, and how ironic it was that 18 years later we're all reuniting. Kind of, it was the first time all 5 of them were going to be on stage as well. So that was really cool. So yeah, we still talk to them. We still talk to Pretty Boy Floyd and several other bands.
That's good that you keep in touch with them.
Yeah.
Especially if you have plans for tours or concerts and you want to get them together.
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we can put something together like that next year. We still talk to, many other, band guys that are in other bands. So hopefully we can put together some kind of tour next summer.
See, lots of radio stations in Ontario like Q107 and Dave FM's been spinning hair metal band and classical rock bands out of the 80s on their stations for over 20 years, and they're still going strong today. That genre of music is popular in Ontario still. So
yeah, it seems to be having a resurgence right now. It's really, so many people have, it's kind of come around where it's cool to listen to that type of music again. So
it's making it.
And so many, like you say, so many stations have kind of always played it. Whether or not it wasn't always, cool or not. They've kind of always kind of stuck to their guns, and you got to admire stations like that. So we really appreciate those kind of stations playing 80s metal, and it seems like there's more and more popping up every day now.
There is worldwide, and especially in Europe too.
Yeah,
that's the
great.
One thing I've noticed.
It's good for us. So we're just really happy to be part of this whole 80s music scene again.
So we're looking forward for PairADice coming into Ontario, and hopefully we can see you play at the Molson Amphitheatre. And
we would love to play the Molson Amphitheatre, so hopefully we'll come there soon. So
we look forward to that.
Yeah.
What PairADice song tracks are creating a buzz on radio currently, and where can fans request your music on radio?
They can request it on all kinds of radio stations. They can buy the CD at retrospectrecords.com, or you can go to our MySpace page, which is myspace.com/PairADice88.
Another hot topic hitting the media today. Will Retrospect Records be producing any promotional limited editions of PairADice music on vinyl as a promotional?
Not that I've heard of at this point, no. I don't think that we will be coming out with anything like that anytime soon.
Okay, because some bands, like for charities and concerts and special events, limited editions on vinyl are rare, and that's what I was just wondering.
I'll have to suggest that to the record company, because that's a great idea. So.
Yeah. Where can our audience access PairADice music online to buy CDs and PairADice merchandise through the internet?
You can purchase the CD at retrospectrecords.com, or you can purchase it at PairADice's MySpace page, which is there's a link right on the site there that's myspace.com/PairADice88.
Your DVD and your follow-up CD will be coming out in 2009?
Hopefully in the beginning of 2009, we'll have the DVD out, which is a DVD release of the Rocklahoma show, as well as a DVD of kind of a assorted live shows from the 80s and the 90s, and shows throughout Japan and all through the U.S. So look for that in early 2009.
Before we wrap up our interview, do you have any last words?
I just want to say, Canada, you rock. Thanks for listening to PairADice, and appreciate all your help, and go Leafs this year.
Thank you, Billy, for allowing our HMTV Canada E-Zine to interview PairADice. You rock, and we look forward to you coming to Canada and playing.
All right, well, I appreciate having us on the radio over there. I'm a big hockey fan, so I'm partial. I just love Canada, and glad to be on the radio out there, and appreciate you guys listening to the music, and keep rocking.
What's your favorite hockey team?
Oh, I grew up in Los Angeles, so I'm partial to the Kings.
Oh, I like Anaheim and Toronto Maple Leafs.
I know you like the Toronto Maple Leafs. I grew up loving the Leafs, and of course, being a child of the '70s was always a big fan of the Canadians as well. So, but I was always a big Kings fan, even though we always ended up in last place, it seemed like, every year. But I was always a big Rogie Vachon and Marcel Dion's fan. So now I'm living in Denver, Colorado, so I've become an Avalanche fan, but it's hard to cheer for those guys.
Yeah, I'm still a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, so in the wintertime it's hockey and beer, eh?
That's right, eh?
Yes, for sure.
Molson.
Yep.
All
For
right.
sure.
Well, hey, thanks for having us on. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now.